cozy in the middle.
Tune in for some happiness. Tune in for some fun. Tune in late at night or tune in the sun. This is TFM. Get ready to rock. From AM to PM. Come on. Let's talk.
TFM 95.4.
Let's talk.
Live on TFM and the TFM Facebook page. This is the live feed of TTV. Let's talk.
Hello and welcome to the Midday Update. Here are the headlines. US investors have positive impression on Oman's economic reform steps. Oman eyes real GDP growth of 3.5% in 10th five-year plan. Rustak Hospital becomes COVID-free. New executive decisions on VAT implementation issued by Oman Tax Authority. According to UK Prime Minister, easing of England's COVID-19 lockdown to be gradual unwrapping. OPEC Plus allows Russia and Kazakhstan to raise output in February and March. Hollywood halts production amid unprecedented COVID-19 surge. His Majesty the Sultan's Football Cup Round 16 draw conducted. Rohit returns Saini to debut as visitors name playing 11 for third test. Those are the headlines. Now we'll have the quick fact for the day before we move on to weather. Did you know that more people have been to the moon than to the Mariana Trench? In human history, 12 people have set foot on the moon, but only 3 people have been able to make it to the Mariana Trench because of the extreme conditions there. That was our fact for today. Now let's take a look at the weather report by Oman Meteorology and Civil Aviation Authority. According to the latest weather forecast, it will be relatively cool and we'll have mainly clear skies over most of the Sultanate with chances of cloud formation over Wusta and Dhofar. There are also chances of dust advection along the coastal areas of the Sultanate. That was our weather today. Now let's take a look at what the weather will be like throughout the Sultanate. Muscat will be sunny with temperatures between 21 degrees Celsius and 14 degrees Celsius. Masanda will be sunny with temperatures between 20 and 14 degrees Celsius. North Al-Batana will be sunny with temperatures between 20 and 15 degrees Celsius. And South Al-Batana will also be sunny with temperatures between 19 and 13 degrees Celsius. Al-Buraymi will be sunny with temperatures between 19 and 13 degrees Celsius. Al-Dahira will be sunny with temperatures between 22 and 14 degrees Celsius. Al-Dakhla will be sunny with temperatures between 23 and 12 degrees Celsius. North Al-Sharqiya will be sunny with temperatures between 24 and 12 degrees Celsius. And South Al-Sharqiya will also be sunny with temperatures between 20 and 16 degrees Celsius. Al-Wusta will be sunny with temperatures between 23 and 16 degrees Celsius. And Dhofar will also be sunny with temperatures between 21 and 12 degrees Celsius. Welcome back to the Midday Update. Let's take a look at the COVID-19 updates. The Ministry of Health has announced the registration of 1 new COVID-19 death, taking the death toll to 1,505. The ministry has also extended its deepest condolences to the families of the deceased. The Ministry of Health has also announced the registration of 182 new COVID-19 cases, taking the total cases in the Sultanate to 130,070. In the past 24 hours, there have been 100 recoveries and the total number of recoveries now stand at 122,556. The ministry has urged everyone to adhere to social distancing instructions issued by the Supreme Committee and the Ministry of Health. Now for the local stories. Kimberly Reid, president of the U.S. Export-Import Bank, said that the American investors have positive impression on the steps taken by the Sultanate's government under the leadership of His Majesty Sultan Haitham bin Tariq to improve the economic environment, boost the private sector, and attract more investments to the Sultanate. She added that the commercial team at the U.S. Embassy in Muscat is exerting great efforts in raising awareness of the U.S. business community towards the available investment opportunities in the Sultanate. In an interview with Oman News Agency, the American official praised the promising sectors in Oman Vision 2040, stressing the possibility that the U.S. Exim Bank could contribute to strengthening the investment and economic relations between the two sides. The president of the US Exim Bank said that Oman Vision 2040 represents a new chapter for Oman and it presents opportunities for a new stage of partnership between the Sultanate and her country, especially in economic fields. She commended the historic and strategic relations binding the two friendly countries in many commercial, economic, and investment areas. She explained that there are many sectors in which the bank can play a vital role in promoting the bilateral relations between the two countries. These sectors, she added, include wireless communication, 5G technologies, agriculture, biotechnology, water treatment, manufacturing industries, medical sciences, and the promising mining sector in the Sultanate. She explained that her country has advanced equipment that can be well utilized if it is used in many of the aforementioned sectors, particularly in the mining sector. During her visit to the Sultanate, Kimberly Reid, president of the US Exim Bank, met with many officials, including Syed Badr Hamid Al Busaidi, who is the foreign minister. It is worth noting that the free trade agreement between the Sultanate and the United States of America came into force in early 2009. The FTA has been contributing in boosting the investment cooperation between the two countries. Dr. Nasser Rashid Al-Mawali, Under-Secretary of the Ministry of Economy, has said that the 10th five-year plan will focus on achieving a real GDP growth of not less than 3.5% on average and 5.5% in nominal GDP growth rate, as well as increasing the investment rate to 27% of GDP on average. He added in a statement to Oman News Agency that one of the main objectives of the plan is to attract more foreign direct investment in the oil and non-oil sectors to reach 10.9% of the GDP by the end of the plan. In addition, it also aims at increasing the private sector's contribution in investment to reach 60% on average, as well as achieving a real growth rate for non-oil activities estimated at about 3.2% on average, and maintaining safe and stable inflation rates in the range of 2.8% annually. He said, Oman Vision 2040 has been directly followed up and supervised by His Majesty Sultan Haitham bin Tariq. The 10th five-year plan reflects the directions of His Majesty that were included in his historic speech on February 23, 2020. He further added, saying, the plan is of great importance at this historical stage and is considered to the first implementation plan for the vision. It is also the first tool by which the potentials of the future vision and the proposed initiatives and policies are implemented in order to achieve the goals of the vision during the next 5 years. He concluded that there will be a special pamphlet known as the Citizen's Guide for the 10th Five-Year Plan, in addition to a number of other documents within the plan's output, including a volume for the first-year projects in the 10th Five-Year Plan, monitoring and evaluation framework for the 10th Five-Year Plan, and a volume for the 10th Five-Year Plan programs, which will be released in the first quarter of 2021. With 0 patients of COVID-19, Rustak Reference Hospital has achieved great success and feels proud of it after 10 months of the COVID-19 pandemic, Dr. Suleiman Al-Makbali said. Dr. Suleiman Al-Makbali, who is an intensive care consultant at the Rustak Reference Hospital, confirmed that during the peak days of COVID-19 from July to September 2020, the number of COVID patients in hospital and intensive care reached 35, 15 of whom were in intensive care. The number of COVID-19 patients in Rustak Reference Hospital reached 813 since the start of the pandemic until the last patient left, and most of them were suffering from respiratory problems and needed artificial oxygen, he said. Dr. Suleiman supervised the treatment of a number of patients in intensive care whose ages ranged from 18 years to more than 80 years. A statement issued online by General Directorate of Health Services in South Al Batana Governorate said that the Rustak Hospital on Tuesday bid farewell to the last recovered patient from coronavirus who was discharged from the hospital with health and wellness. It thanked and appreciated the frontline staff and also thanked the citizens and residents for adhering to the necessary measures to curb the pandemic. The tax authority on Wednesday issued 3 executive decisions pertaining to the implementation of the value-added tax or VAT, which will enter enforcement stage by April 16, 2021. The first decision determines the minimum volume of sales requiring the taxpayer to compulsorily register with the tax authority. The second relates to deadlines for registration to the tax authority, while the third decision lists the foodstuff exempted from the VAT. The first decision specified that registration to the tax authority becomes compulsory if the taxpayer's annual sales stand at Omani Riyals 38,500 or more or are expected to reach the ceiling. The decision set the ceiling of voluntary registration to the tax authority at Omani Riyal 19,250 and states that accordingly the taxpayer may apply for voluntary registration if the applicant's annual sales stand at or cross or are expected to go beyond the value of Omani Riyals 19,250. Determining ceilings for compulsory and optional registration comes within the context of the provisions of the GCC Unified VAT Agreement, which the Sultanate signed in November 2016. The second decision fixes deadlines for taxpayers' registration to the VAT at the tax authority. The decision took into account a certain level of progression in taxpayers registering to the tax authority depending on the volume of their annual sales. The aim is to grant small and medium enterprises sufficient time to prepare and adjust their systems and their mechanisms for filing and billing to meet the requirements of the tax law. The decision sets the deadline of registration, which is the date on which the taxpayer will be required to implement the provisions of the VAT law according to the volume of the taxpayer's sales. The decision states that taxpayers whose value of annual sales crosses or is expected to cross Omani Riyal 1 million have to register the tax authority during February 1st, 2021 and March 15, 2021. Accordingly, the VAT for this segment becomes applicable from April 16, 2021. As for taxpayers whose value of sales crosses or is expected to cross Omani Riyal 500,000, the registration begins from April and the deadline of registration will be July 1st, 2021. The deadlines of lower segments follow a similar slope till the minimum level of Omani Riyal 38,500 worth applies. The decision grants taxpayers a right to register voluntarily to the tax authority with effect from February 1st, 2021 in case the value of their supplies crosses or is expected to cross Omani Riyal 19,250. The third decision specifies the type of foodstuff exempted from the VAT. The list consists of 94 customs tariff items to be exempted from the VAT. These include meat, fish, poultry, dairy products, fresh eggs, vegetables, fruits, coffee, tea, cardamom, cereals and grains, olive oil, sugar, children's foods, bread, bottled water and table salt. CA Sarveshwar Biani, Vice President Finance and Accounts of CVPT Sohar Textile LLC, said that the VAT is paid eventually by the consumer. However, due to its structure of spreading responsibility on all businesses, there is a substantial compliance cost burden on all. These are adopting accounting and IT systems to capture accurately and remit the correct amount of VAT to tax authority, issuing correct VAT invoices, filing VAT returns, manpower training, VAT audits and dispute resolution, etc. Scattered registration process over a period is a really good decision by the tax authority, which will be favorable for business community. It will give ample time to them to prepare for VAT, especially SMEs. It will not put a sudden burden and rush for small businesses. Also, if businesses prepare themselves in an appropriate manner to become crucial part of VAT collection administration system, it will finally help tax authority to collect VAT hassle-free. It's like a win-win situation for both. Those are the local stories. Now we'll take a short commercial break and we'll be back with our international stories.
Oman's largest online supermarket now has no minimum order limit. From grocery to household items, Rafiq has everything that you want. Enjoy worry-free shopping with over 8,000 products to choose from and get it delivered straight to your doorstep. Rafiq, you order, we deliver.
It's about time we kicked COVID-19 out of our lives. Join us on TTV Outline every Monday and let us learn how to fight COVID together.
Welcome back to the Midday Update. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson said on Wednesday that the easing of England's new national lockdown, the third of its kind since the pandemic began in Britain early last year, will be a gradual unwrapping and not a big bang. The Prime Minister told MPs in the House of Commons, lower house of the British Parliament, that the British government will use every available second of the lockdown to place an invisible shield around elderly and vulnerable people through the rollout of COVID-19 vaccines in the coming weeks. Johnson made the remarks ahead of a vote on England's third national COVID-19 lockdown later on Wednesday. The Prime Minister justified his decision in order to get a third national shutdown with the emergence of a new variant of the virus first identified in Britain, which is said to be up to 70% more transmissible. The variant was spreading with frightening ease and speed in spite of the sterling work of the British public, said Johnson, adding that it left him with no choice but to implement another lockdown in England. This mutation has led to more cases than we've seen ever before, numbers that cannot be explained away by the meteoric rise in testing, Johnson told MPs. When the ONS reports that more than 2% of the population is now infected, and when the number of patients in hospitals in England is now 40% higher than the first peak in April, it is inescapable that the facts are changing and we must change our response, said Johnson. Announcing the lockdown on Monday evening in a televised address, Johnson urged people across the country to stay at home, except for permitted reasons, echoing the message back in March 2020. The House of Commons was recalled on Wednesday from its Christmas recess to debate and retrospectively vote on the lockdown, which has already been in force. With the backing of the main opposition of the Labour Party, the measure is expected to pass the vote comfortably. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, and non-bloc producers agreed on Tuesday to allow Russia and Kazakhstan to slightly raise oil outputs in the next 2 months. In accordance with the deal published by OPEC, Russia will increase its output by 65,000 barrels per day from the January level to 9,184,000 barrels per day in February, and by another 65,000 barrels per day to 9,249,000 barrels per day in March. Kazakhstan will boost its production by 10,000 barrels per day to 1,427,000 barrels per day in February, and by another 10,000 barrels per day to 1,437,000 barrels per day in March. All the remaining participants in the OPEC Plus mechanism will keep their output unchanged from January. The OPEC Plus has introduced caps on production to stabilize global oil prices. Hollywood is reeling as the usual cheer of Christmas and the New Year have given way to a massive post-holiday COVID-19 spike that has brought disruption and new lockdowns in the entertainment industry. The Los Angeles County Department of Public Health reported 13,512 new COVID-19 cases in the most populous U.S. county on Tuesday, with 7,898 people already hospitalized, dropping intensive care unit capacity in the region to zero. Public officials have predicted a potential spike in confirmed cases to 9,000 a day over the next 2 weeks, with a weekly death toll of 1,000 or more. With the testing positivity rate peaking at 18 to 21%, the stay-at-home order for Southern California has been extended to January 16th. In response to the order, the Producers Guild of America, the Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, and the Joint Policy Committee on Monday jointly called for a temporary hold on in-person production in Southern California until hospital overcrowding has subsided, so as to protect their members, which altogether consist of hundreds of thousands of filmmakers, actors, crew, and advertisers. Even putting aside the risk of acquiring COVID on set, a risk that we have done a great deal to mitigate through our safety protocols, on-set production always poses some risk of injury, whether because of a stunt gone wrong, an equipment failure, or a garden variety fall, said SAG-AFTRE's National Executive Director David White. Right now, with few of the hospital beds available, it is hard to understand how a worker injured on set is supposed to get treatment, he said. Film and TV production has been deemed as an essential industry in California and exempted from COVID-19 restrictions issued by the government last year. With frequent testing and strict safety protocols, new films and TV episodes have been produced during the pandemic with no infections. Most TV studios and streamers such as Netflix, Warner Brothers, CBS, Walt Disney's ABC, Signature, and 28 Television have postponed production by 1 or more weeks in January. The suspension of in-person production affected talk shows as well as pushing Jimmy Kimmel Live and The Late Late Show back to remote filming. Those were the international stories. We'll take a short commercial break and we'll be back with the sports news.
Oman's largest online supermarket now has no minimum order limit. From grocery to household items, Rafiq has everything that you want. Enjoy worry-free shopping with over 8,000 products to choose from and get it delivered straight to your doorstep. Rafiq, you order, we deliver.
It's about time we kicked COVID-19 out of our lives. Join us on TTV Outline every Monday and let us learn how to fight COVID together.
Welcome back to the Midday Update. Coming up are the sports stories. The draw for round 16 of His Majesty the Sultan's Football Cup for the Sports Session 2021 was held on Wednesday at the Conference Hall of Seep Sports Stadium. According to the draw, Dhofar will play against Rustaq, Al Aruba will go against Al Ittihad, Seep versus Al Nasser, Sohar versus Al Suwaik, Al Nahda versus Majlis, Sur versus Ibri, Saham versus Samail, and Al Musanna versus Oman Club. The matches will begin on January 21st and 22nd, and the venues for the matches will be decided later. Saeed bin Osman al-Balushi, Secretary General of Oman Football Association, gave a speech in which he tackled the single match elimination system of the competition. In case of a tie, the match would continue for additional time and would go on for a penalty kick in case of a tie by the end of the additional time, he said. The draw ceremony was attended by a number of officials from Oman Football Association and representatives of the sponsoring companies and the local media. Rohit Sharma made a return to the Indian team for the pink test against Australia at the Sydney Cricket Ground, while pacer Navdeep Saini is set to make his debut in the longest format game on Thursday. India's playing 11 are Ajinkya Rahane, Rohit Sharma, Shubman Gill, Cheteshwar Pujara, Hanuma Vihari, Rishabh Pant, Jasprit Bumrah, Navdeep Saini, Ravindra Jadeja, R. Ashwin and Mohammad Siraj. India on Wednesday named the playing 11 for the pink test. Opening batsman Mayank Agarwal has been dropped off from the side as Rohit replaces him. Gill will open the innings with Rohit after playing knockoffs of 45 and 35 in his debut test at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. Saini comes in for Spitzer Umesh Yadav. The latter sustained a strain in his left calf muscle on day 3 of the Boxing Day test in Melbourne and has returned to India after he was ruled out of the series. Rohit was also named the vice-captain for the remaining 2 test matches against Australia. The opener will take over the reins from Cheteshwar Pujara. Ajinkya Rahane continues to lead the test side in the absence of regular skipper Virat Kohli, who is on paternity leave. The third test of the Border Gavaskar Test series between India and Australia will be played at Sydney Cricket Ground from Thursday. The series is level at 1-1 with India registering an 8th wicket win in the Boxing Day test at the Melbourne Cricket Ground after being thrashed in the opening test of the series at the Adelaide Oval. Those are the stories for today. We'll be back on Sunday with midday updates, so stay tuned.
You've just heard the live feed from the TTV studios on TFM 95.4. Let's talk.